Alrighty, welcome to the Soul Tree Project. I'm here with Daniel Brisbon from Above Tree Line, and we're about to get in the water. It's not a joke, and I hope y'all enjoy this. And then we'll do a podcast. Mr. Brisbon, thank you for joining us at the Soul Tree Podcast here, episode 34.
Wait, you're telling me this isn't the next episode of Jackass?
It might as well be after that.
Yeah.
After that cold water.
Getting out of our warm clothes to jump in a freezing cold creek?
That was crazy, huh?
It was.
So, I was thinking about how to introduce you on the car ride over here, and there's a few things that I'd like to say. And one is that there's a couple of things that came to mind. Is you're a great life coach. You have a company called Above Tree Line. You're also a public speaker.
Yeah.
And as a public speaker, you inspire people, you motivate people. And as a coach, you help people to find their own inner strengths and their own inner resources to accomplish their goals. And I've known you for a while, and I just have to say, you're a great guy, and I'm honored to have you on. So
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So to get started, I'd love just to hear a little bit about what your, as far as transformation goes, how do you hold that paradigm? What does it mean to you to transform? Why are you so inspired and passionate about guiding people in that way?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I'll first start off with what is transformation and how does that really look? What does that mean? And I would say transformation is any change we make in our lives that can be in a good or bad sense. We can transform in a positive way, but we can also transform in a negative way or a not serving way, you know. And so what I would say as a transformation that I ideally work on in my life and with my clients is positive transformation. And to really identify that, it's what is a clear vision and goal you have for your life, and how can we work towards that, and how can we create that. And a lot of times it's not just creating it in your outside world, but it's creating it in your personal experience and your personal state and how you see the perspective through which you see the world and the experiences you have.
So kind of a difference between inner and outer.
Exactly.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah, because we really don't have control of much in this world. We really only have control over a few things, and that's our thoughts, our actions, and our perspective. Or at least the focus of thoughts that we have. We can't really control all of our thoughts. And that's what's inside of us. We have control basically over our internal state, and we can't control the outside world. I can't control you or anything you think. I can't have any real influence. All I can really do is show up in the way that I can show up in this container with you.
Right.
And that's what I work on with myself and my clients, because from there we can create amazing things in our lives. But we really got to tune up and up level that internal way of being first.
Right.
To match that vision we have for our lives.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of times when we don't get our external needs met, when we're feeling like things aren't going well outside in our lives, it's easy to feel like, oh, something must be wrong out here. When it sounds like what you're good at is helping people change the inner world so that the outer world matches that a little more, but also so that you can have a different experience of your life no matter what happens externally.
Exactly.
Right.
And one of the beauties of it is that our external world and what we see in the outside world is a direct mirror and reflection of what's going on inside of us. So if all I notice when I go out into the world is negative people, negative situations, just crappy, not happy things, that's really a mirror and reflection of the fact that I am probably in a very not ideal, happy state inside of myself. And when I start to notice good in the world, that is usually a reflection of like, hey, I'm in probably a very good state inside of myself.
Right, it's a reflection of yeah, that's cool.
So it's good feedback of what we see in the world to what our personal experience is and how we can shift that.
Right. Talk a little bit about what we just did in the river and why that's important.
Oh, cold water submersion. And why the heck did we just put ourselves through that?
Why would we do that?
No, like 99% of the population would just run away from any idea of doing what we just did.
Yeah.
And yet we just went and fully embraced it. And why the heck did we do that?
Right.
And for me, and what I kind of touched on while we were in the creek, is that not only is cold water submersion a healthy, when done correctly, like we're saying, you want to work your way slowly into something like this.
You got to train for it. We've been training for it for over a year.
Exactly, and that's what exactly it is. It's a training. It's a training of what I'd say is our state and our composure and our resilience are the kind of big words that come up for me when I think of why I do cold water submersion. Because if I'm able to train myself to stay cool, calm, collected, composed, control my breath and my nervous system when I'm in extremely gnarly cold water conditions, then I can take that same exact training inside of myself into other parts of the world, into the people I connect with, into my own personal business endeavors, putting myself out there into the world, being vulnerable, instead of wanting to run away from that because it's scary. I have trained myself, my mind and my body, to stop, assess, and recalibrate rather than just running away from something that's
great.
Terrifying.
And there's nothing easy about what we just did because, and even though we've done that before and we've done it a lot of times and we've trained for it, there's a way in which it still doesn't feel great to be in the freezing cold water for that first couple minutes. I mean, maybe a guy like Wim Hof, who's been doing it for forever, gets to the point where it's just like taking a bubble bath, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I notice in myself there's still a little resistance to that struggle. And however, I have focus, intention, mindfulness, willpower, surrender. I have all these tools that I can use, breath, that allow me to be in the discomfort so that I don't have to, it's not that I'm not uncomfortable, but it's that I'm accepting it. Do you know what I mean?
You said, you put on some good points there of, I like the word surrender and letting go, because that's really what you have to do. You have to be like, say, okay, you know what? I'm in this experience right now, and that's okay.
Right.
I choose to be accountable for how I respond to that.
Right, exactly.
And that's where our power lies. And that's another beautiful thing, is that doing that practice of that cold water submersion for those 5 minutes,
were we in there for 5 minutes?
Yeah, that was 5 minutes.
Because remember when I was in there, I was like, man, I don't know if I could do more than 3 minutes today. And we were in there for 5.
We did 5. But the thing is, and what I kind of compose ourselves as human beings is we have the mental, emotional and the physical.
Yeah.
Kind of that embody us, that we can really train and work on. And that right there was a great training in all three of those, where we tested our physical bodies of being in that cold.
Yes.
And the nervous system wanting to get us the hell out of there right away. And then we had the mental, where our every thought in your mind is, get the hell out of here. Like, let's get back to warmth where it's nice and cozy and okay and I'm all right.
Yeah.
And then you have the emotional, where if you're in there and you're saying, or you're thinking like, I have to be in here, this sucks, I'm not having fun, like kind of not ideal emotional state, you're not going to stay in there for very long. You're going to convince yourself to get out of there real quick, probably.
Oh yeah, totally.
But if you get in there and you're like, okay, I'm doing this because I know it's good for me, I know that there's benefits for me down the road, I know it's just training my body in a way that I want to serve me, and you have those kind of emotions of, hey, I see this as something that's good for me and I feel good because of that, you're going to stick in it much longer.
There's something really important about any kind of resistance training. Anything that pushes the body, the mind, the the nervous system to be resilient. Mm-hmm. What do you think it is about resistance training in general, whether it be psychological or physical?
I think resistance training is just like any struggle. We need struggle in our lives.
We need struggle, right.
We can't grow, we can't transform like what we coach and teach without struggle, without something kind of like the bow and arrow analogy.
Right.
You can't really go forward without pulling that tension back and that resistance back that you're creating in the bow in order for that arrow to shoot where you want it to go. And so before that arrow can go, you got to create that resistance.
You got to create the tension.
And it's not like about creating struggle in your life, but when it comes in, using it as an opportunity rather than as a setback.
Yeah, I was reflecting on that the other day. Nothing grows without tension.
Yeah.
Nothing grows without struggle.
Exactly.
And, there's nothing wrong with being comfortable. The thing is that when it's excess, when we're too comfortable, when we get complacent and apathetic, and there is a way that being too comfortable isn't actually comfortable after a while. Like there's like a natural urge to move.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you've ever worked with a client who is kind of lethargic, and I've experienced this in my personal life where there's times when like movement doesn't feel natural or I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Resistance to the resistance.
Yeah. Say more about that.
Yeah, that's a big thing, is that especially in today's world, one of the kind of big issues is that we have way too much comfort at our fingertips. Like we can order anything we want right off Amazon. We have warm buildings to go into and warm homes to come home to. Like we have everything we need. We can easily be comfortable our whole lives. And we can get set in that modality and in that routine, that habit is what's really being created.
Yeah.
And therefore, once we face adversity or resistance or struggle, we've trained ourselves so much to fight against that or to not be in that state, and we want to be in that comfort, so we resist the resistance. We resist the struggle.
I like that.
We resist feeling a not ideal way. So if we're feeling sad, or if we're feeling doubtful, we just like get away from it, resist it, run away from it. When rather, sometimes you just need to sit in it and experience it, understand it, and grow from it.
Right.
Because that's the only way you are going to grow, is by sometimes just sitting in that not fun.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I remember when I first got into 12-step programs when I was younger, in my early sobriety, one of the things that we learned is that your feelings don't have to dictate your actions. And that was like a big lesson for me in my, early adulthood, like at 18, 19 years old. Because you don't want to not push yourself, because then you have no resistance. Mm-hmm. So you want to be in that middle zone, that learning zone. But the cool thing is that later, after those efforts, relaxing and comfort can actually be rewarding.
Yeah, it's like that Goldilocks zone.
The Goldilocks zone.
Just right zone.
Yeah, exactly.
Because what you're stepping into is something very important of what we call our window of tolerance.
Window of tolerance, right?
And inside of ourselves, we all have a different window of tolerance, and all of us have kind of created a bubble of kind of safety or comfort of that which we're comfortable in. And some people have a bigger bubble, some people have a smaller bubble.
Depending on the situation.
Exactly,
yeah.
the situation. And so, and finding that kind of sweet spot like you're talking about of getting outside of your comfort zone while also not pushing past that threshold where it's going to be a negative experience for the person or for yourself, but also pushing enough where you're growing and learning and a bit more about yourself from the experience, and you're kind of pushing into the unknown, so to speak, but into that right amount.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that I love I forget who coined that term, the window of tolerance, but that's one of my favorite ones to talk about because it is okay that everybody has a different window of tolerance. What's important is that as an individual, I get to know what my limitations are. The thing about limitations is we don't know what they are unless we push them.
Exactly.
So I don't know what my limits are until I've gone beyond it. So it's like I have burned myself out in the cold water before. There's been days where I did that and I overdid it and I was useless for the rest of the day. The reason was because my body, I've done 10 minutes in there before and it was too long for me.
Yeah.
For my personal body.
Yeah.
And so I had to sleep it off. And I was unable to participate in life. So what I learned is like, okay, that's past my limit. Mm-hmm. Where is my limit? I'm trying to find my limit. So maybe my limit's 8 minutes. Maybe it's 7 minutes. Maybe it's 6 minutes. It's not about comparing ourselves to other people. It's about comparing ourselves to our own potential, as one of my favorite professors, Dr. Peterson, says. And talk a little bit about how you, as a coach, attempt to reflect a client's potential and get them to focus inwardly rather than on comparisons.
Yeah, and that's something that we're kind of told even when we're kids, don't compare yourself to others, just focus on yourself. But we never are told why. Why, it's so easy for us to see, that person's more successful in this area or doing better than I am, and I want to be like that. I want to be that person. But that's really not serving at all in the kind of grand scheme of things as who we are as individuals. And the reason that is two things. One is because that creates attachment, and it also creates expectation. And attachment and expectation are two big things that aren't very serving in our lives, but are so prevalent in our way of thinking. And attachment, what I mean by attachment is needing something outside of ourselves to make us feel a certain way. So you're attached to, once I become as successful as this person, then I'll be happy. My attachment is to the success of something outside of me for me to feel a certain way. And it's disempowering you because you're basically telling yourself on a subconscious level that you are not enough, that you don't have enough inside of you, and you have to attain more outside of you in order to feel content, whole, free, happy, joyful, whatever it is that you're seeking. And the other thing is expectation. And when you put expectation on anything, you're not allowing it to manifest into what it can be and what it should be. And a lot of times the expectations of what we think an outcome for our lives should be is not as ideal as what it can be. And our imagination will start to go kind of wild and crazy on it. And rather than being realistic about creating the things in our life that we can, we allow our fear-based emotions to take over a lot of times and create expectations that are either not real or not serving. And so when we compare ourselves to others, it really is creating this dynamic of attachment expectation that's not going to help us out in the long run. But it's something that's not very conscious and aware and at the forefront of our minds. It's something that kind of sits in the back of our brain, so to speak, in our subconscious. And we don't really think about it much. So there's a reason why you shouldn't compare yourself to others, and that is it.
That's great. Thanks, Daniel. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Episode 34 of the Soul Tree Project. Daniel Brisbon has been an amazing guest. He's a great guy. And we're going to have to do part 2 soon because I don't feel like we had enough time. And you have a lot more to say. Any last words?
See you guys for episode 2.
Go check Daniel's stuff out. I'll leave a link to his website for Above Treeline, and you can go click on that if you're interested in coaching or just seeing what he's all about. Thanks, Daniel.